There seems to be a growing number of libertarians who think a sanitized sex industry would be a good idea. So let me start with a simple question. Would you really want to live in a world where on every high street, alongside the hardware store, there was another shop looking safe and suitably hygienic, where guys could pay for a total stranger to suck their dick? Do you really want to move society in that direction? Okay, that's two questions, but the second one is relevant, because this is not just about individuals making individual choices. There are also broader forces which influence where we, as a society, are going. So the sex industry doesn't exist in a vacuum. In fact, these days it's at the cutting edge of the most important drive in any market-dominated society, the drive to turn people into commodities. To see what this means, let's briefly look back to the 70s when the market, aka capitalism, mainly made a profit out of people in the West by herding them into factories where they could use their arms to pull levers or press buttons. And that was one way of turning people into commodities, given that it was tedious and exhausting work from which they felt totally alienated. But at least that kind of alienation stopped at their elbows because, as long as they turned out 40 sprockets a minute, nobody cared if they were cursing under their breath, whistling a wee tune, or even chatting to the person on the next machine. But now that's all changed, and the reason why is very simple. The people who profit from our global economic system have now got machines or workers in China to do that kind of manual labour, which leaves them with a problem: how to make a profit out of people living in the West. Answer: by getting us to do things which no machine can do. And what that comes down to in our new service industries is getting people to create a phony sense of intimacy. That's what's behind the growth of the sex industry, which is the ultimate service industry, but it's also affected relatively harmless jobs like tourism. For example, the growth of tourism has led to the creation of a whole army of hotel receptionists who, thanks to their extensive training, can now act like they are genuinely delighted when, at the end of a long shift, they're expected to meet and greet another 50 customers. And yes, I did describe them as relatively harmless, but if you ever talk to someone with a high-powered job in tourism, you'll know already that when a person spends all day with a big fake smile stuck on their face, they can end up totally losing contact with any of their own authentic feelings. Though, by the way, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a receptionist or a waitress being friendly, but a really good waiter can be friendly and genuinely helpful without relying on the phony smile or the formulaic responses. And let me also add that I've got maximum respect for anyone who can hold down a job as a waiter. I wouldn't last 5 minutes. But anyway, to get back to the main point, given that here in the West work is now all about service industries rather than manual labour, this means that our economy will only survive if it can constantly find new ways to turn more and more of our genuine human responses into commodities. So a hotel where the receptionist doesn't even look up when you come in will lose out to one where you at least get a forced smile. Equally, the forced smile is not going to get as many return visits as a receptionist who has learned a few basic phrases and can give the impression that she is at least slightly interested in how your journey went. But even more successful, assuming that this hotel mainly caters for sad businessmen, will be the receptionist who's willing to flash her cleavage and flirt a bit. And that's how it starts. That's how our sexuality, which can be an amazing way for us to contact with another human being, whether that's by falling in love or just by shagging like rabbits, that incredible potential is turned into something lifeless. Just another commodity produced at the cost of another person becoming even more alienated from their own authentic feelings. Still, at least with flirtatious receptionists, it's only words and looks. With the sex industry, it gets a lot more invasive. It has to, because that's what the market pays top dollar for, people who are willing to offer up even more intimate and authentic responses so they can be turned into lifeless commodities. That's why you get paid more for a blowjob than a hand job. And if you can make it look like you actually enjoy giving a blowjob to a total stranger, well, you're the one who'll be getting that phone call to offer you more work. So just think about what that means. It means that surviving in this world, just managing to pay the rent, will more and more involve letting your employer defile the most precious thing you've got, by which I mean your ability to experience an intimate and authentic communication with another human being. That's what it's coming to in this brave new world where the sex industry is now number 3 in terms of global turnover, behind drugs and the arms trade. It's awful. In fact, it's pretty much a secular definition of evil, but that is where our service industry society is taking us. And okay, getting rid of the sex industry is going to be quite a challenge, though I'd say that penalising punters instead of the pros would be a good start. But one thing I think we should all accept, if we're going to discuss this subject, is that another person getting drawn into the sex industry is not just an individual choice. It's part of a social trend which wants to turn more and more of our authentic responses into commodities which can be put up for sale. That's obviously a bad thing, so give me an answer to this question. What are we going to do to stop that trend?